Blog Talk Radio.
Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. I sense your presence. And I am the light within your soul. In the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign. But to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And in the presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I see aspiring to be free. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love. Reflections of the one surrounding me with love. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Within and without, above and below, yeah. East, west, north and south, I sense your presence. Without and within, below and above, yeah, yeah. East, west, north and south, I sense your presence. I sense your presence. In the presence of my Lord of light and love, everything I find in tune with the divine. And here we stand in line, waiting for some sacred sign. But to find the balance is the purpose of this time. Restore the balance of the universal mind. And I am the light within your soul. In the essence of truth and right, love makes the circle whole. And when I call to thee, and come on bended knee, surrender to the all-pervading light and love. Reflections of the one surrounding me with love. For to find the balance is the purpose of this time. To restore the balance of the universal mind. And I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. Om Shabbat Shalom, Holy Way of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shabbat Shalom, Holy Angel of the Most High. Om Shabbat Shalom, I sense your presence. I sense your presence.
Thank you for joining me here tonight on Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. My name is Jessie Ann Nichols George, and I'm your hostess. The music you were listening to there at the beginning of the show is I Sense Your Presence. It's by Shemshai, great group that I got to know while I was living in the Arizona area, and have since gone on to travel the world, and they're all over the place now. And you can certainly check out their music if you'd like at shemshai.com, and that is SHIMSHAI.com, and they've got some free samples and things like that you can tap into as well. Now, I just want to extend a welcome to you, whether this is your first time listening to the show or whether you're returning because you've said, hey, there's some really amazing stuff happening here at Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour, and I want to come back. So it's great to have you here either way. Here at Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour, I look at different ways that compassion exists in our lives, how to remove our blocks, resistances, frustrations, and more. Some weeks I'm discussing different aspects of how compassion is in our life and how it affects our life and the different areas of compassion. And then some weeks I'm doing more exercises, practical implementations on the show. And many times, especially this year, and already lining up an amazing amount of people for next year as well, I've got guests on the show. And that way you get a chance to learn about their work, what they're doing, how other things complement and work with compassion. I highlight different musical artists along the way, and I've had Stephen Halpern, Peter Cater on, both Grammy nominees, as well as Claire Hedin and Jill Matson have both been on the show, and certainly encourage you to go back and check those out in the archives as well. And I'm working on a couple of other really amazing musical guests to bring in for 2014, so you'll have to check back and find out who those are going to be. In my own work, I focus on helping people find and use compassion in their everyday lives. I've created the Genesis Clearing Statement, which some of you have experienced on previous shows, and if you've missed that, you can go back and check it out in our archives. As a matter of fact, one of our other hosts here on the network, Kevin Baird, when I first started doing my show here, he did an interview for me, actually as kind of a way to get me started into the network, and that was a really, really great way to experience the Genesis Clearing Statement, so you can go back and check that out. That would have been around, I want to say late August, early September of 2012, and those are in the archive. I've also authored 4 books. The 2 most recent are on relationships, and it's called You, Me, Life, Dreams, and the Companion Workbook. In addition, and then the first 2 were based on activating compassion. In addition, I've created the Compassion Tour, which is a multi-state nationwide tour, including workshops, retreats, seminars, book signings, fundraising events, all kinds of great stuff going on, and got some things that I'm working on for that for 2014 right now. You can follow all the events to register for on that at jessieannicholsgeorge.eventbrite.com. There's also an option there for gifting the tour, too, or if you can't make an event but you'd like to support me getting out to like the fundraisers and things, you can just gift any amount that you like there. Just a reminder, if you enjoyed the show this evening, make sure that you share it with all those connections you've got out there, friends, family, because these shows are really amazing, and you never know who needs this exact show and whose life that's going to impact. And I find when I share things, I get that all the time from people. Oh, my gosh, I'm so glad you shared this. This is exactly what I needed to tap into right now. And what they'll do is they'll just use the same link you used to get into the show, and they'll come back. They can listen to it in the archives at their convenience, which, by the way, are available immediately after the show is finished. And I have that in a couple of different places on my Activating Compassion page in Facebook, so facebook.com, Activating Compassion /notes, and then also on my webpage, jessieannicholsgeorge1.com, and you'll find all of the archived shows there as well. Now, before we get started, those that you have listened in before to the show, you know I like to tap into the 72 Names of God by Yehuda Berg. It's a great little book for insights, and Yehuda's work, I love it because he explains things in everyday language, which is kind of what I do. He takes these big concepts, puts it down into the everyday language that really connects for us in that. And I like to randomly kind of open up and find out what shows up. And by the way, this message is also on my page of the Main Street Universe tab on my website. And you'll find that link to my website at the bottom of the show description. So it goes in, and if you want to go back and read it or anything like that, you'll be able to do that during the week. So let's see what we've got tonight from Yehuda. And we've got, all right, this is actually going to be really great here with our guest tonight. Removing hatred. Okay? And his little message here says, I have seen the enemy, and they are us. And the insight that he gives with this is all destruction, including even natural disasters, occurs for one reason: humanity's hatred toward our fellow beings. Kabbalah teaches that tornadoes, floods, earthquakes, and disease are born from the collective hatred that burns in our hearts. In truth, there is no such thing as a natural disaster, despite what our insurance policies say. Human behavior and the human heart are the sole determining factors as to what occurs in our environment and what transpires between nations. Here's what the ancient Kabbalist had to say on this matter. If a person witnesses any form of hatred on his own street or anywhere in the world, it means this person still has some measure of hatred lingering in his own soul. If we harbor even the slightest bit of hatred or animosity for another person, for any reason whatsoever, valid or invalid, whether we're aware of it or whether we're in self-denial, we still bring destruction to the world. By cleansing the hatred in our own hearts, we can remedy all the world's problems at once at the level of their root cause. That's really powerful to think about. You know, when we think about, we really do have that power in us to make a change. And this really taps into a lot of different big concepts out there, from reflective purposes to, you know, what we think, what we are sort of thing, or what we experience. There's a lot of different big principles tapping into this. But let's look at the meditation that Yehuda provides to help us with this particular name of God, removing hatred. Be painfully honest. Acknowledge every person or group of people toward whom you feel anger, envy, malice, total disgust, or any combination thereof. With the light of this name, drop those negative feelings like a load of wet laundry. That's his message. And the way this name is pronounced, outside of the common name of removing hatred, is Resh Yud Yud. Resh Yud Yud. And that's our message from Yehuda tonight. Now, I'm going to give you a little something to think about before we jump into break and bring our guest on tonight. And let's just take a look at a little bit of concepts here. Is there a step beyond just being present, such as pure presence? What does someone mean when they say, live an effortless life? What is Buddha nature or our natural condition? I realize these are some intense questions and could warrant probably months of discussion or more. However, these are phrases that I'm hearing more and more these days as people seek to evolve and spiritually develop themselves. There are many thoughts to be considered here, so I will try and scratch the surface just a little bit. We hear a lot about being present, being in the moment, living in the here and now. This is all wonderful and great, but there lies a deeper question here. What presence are you exuding in the present moment? Is it really a pure presence, or is it one that is forced and brought into the present because of a catastrophe or distraction? Think about all the times that we do something in the moment. We are focused on it, and yet we are still living in the future or past. For example, we are working on a project right now. Many think I'm in the moment, or let's say I'm working on a project right now. We're collective, right? Many think I'm in the moment, present, but are we? Actually, what we work on is about something that we need for tomorrow or next week or month. It might really be that we are focused on the future and not the present. A past love crosses our mind. We think we are trying to decide what to do about our present, yet we are lost in the past. Now, the key difference in all of this, what makes the difference in being past or present or future, perhaps shifts to whether we are providing a pure presence in things. If I am truly focused on my message and being an open channel for spirit, I may be in closer range to pure presence. However, if I am thinking what is effective for me to put out in a couple of days in this message, I may be more in the future. Pure presence is about what you are bringing to the present moment, not just are you in the present moment. This leads into the aspect of an effortless life or Buddha nature. A key to having an effortless life is exactly this pure presence. Effortless doesn't mean there won't be work to do and energy to be invested. However, it does mean that we don't need to force things. We need to flow more like a river. The river does not insist on a certain path. If its path becomes blocked, it goes a different direction. Peter Fenner delves into these concepts in his work with the Radiant Mind, and we're certainly going to be looking at that tonight. He brings up a very interesting concept that the Radiant Mind comes through when unconditioned awareness radiates through the totality of our conditioned existence. Something truly worth considering there. It seems to me that this can lead to finding our true nature, and it is a light of understanding shining on all that you have experienced in your existence, an aspect of divine creator breaking away the dark lies, triggering our awareness in a way that removes our suffering and pain, providing strong healing and an abundant joy to flow freely through our lives. Are you living with a radiant mind or in your conditioned existence? Are you liberated and in pure presence, or under the confines of others in another space and time? Are you living effortlessly, or forcing and fighting and stressing over everything? This week our guest focuses on a component of compassion that is related to the aspect in my books of waking up. This reminds us to build our awareness of true nature. As we build self-awareness, we also become greatly aware of others and all that is around us. Our minds open in a way that understanding great truths become effortless, and it allows us to become compassionate. I'm going to take a short break, and when we return, I will have Peter Fenner with us, and he will be sharing his work with the Radiant Mind. The song I've got for you during the break tonight is by Claire Hedin, and you can check out more of her work at www.clairehedin.com. That's CLAREHEDIN.com. And this song is called Listen to Me.
So you walk down the aisle, books on either side, and you know that you are waiting for just one to catch your eye, and then you'll look through its pages. What will you find? All the answers to the questions that keep spinning through your mind. Well, never you mind, you'll seek what you find, 'cause the universe is listening to your mind. Listen to me. Answers everywhere, and you sit at a table in a room with a view, and as you look out the window, your life looks back at you. You stop for a moment. What are you to do? Did anyone ever really tell you that your life would look at you? Well, never you mind, you'll seek what you find, 'cause the universe is listening to your mind. Listen to me. And you might turn on you seek. 'Cause the universe is listening as we speak. Listen to me. Answers everywhere. Perhaps it's in a church where you seek your solitude, and if not, the voice of God can reach you through the Christian tune. The church is in your living room as well as on your street. You see, the gods are pretty versatile, with the voice of man they speak. If you choose me, you'll be complete. I am the universe, so listen as I speak. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. Listen to me, listen to me, listen to me. I will set you free. Set you free. You see answers everywhere, answers that you seek there in those passing conversations in books and films that we might see. We're not short of answers, it's the questions that we need. You see, the questions are the gateways, the things that set us free. Ask the right questions and you'll see that the universe is listening as we speak. Listen to me. Answers everywhere.
Welcome back. You are listening to Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour, and my name is Jessie Ann Nichols George. I am your hostess this evening, and what you were just listening to there is Listen to Me. It's by Claire Hedin, and you can check out more of her work if you'd like to at www.clairehedin.com. That's CLAREHEDIN.com. And I'd like to bring on my guest tonight. His name is Peter Fenner, and he is the creator of the Radiant Mind course. He's authored several books, is a workshop presenter, and has offered many presentations at several universities. He has a PhD in the philosophical psychology of I hope I can get this out right. Madhyamika School of Mahayana Buddhism, and has studied with several lamas and other teachers. Peter spent 9 years as a celibate monk before embarking on a journey of Western forms of healing and therapy. He founded the Center for Timeless Wisdom, offering contemplative dialogues and retreats. Peter also teaches in the principles and practices of non-dual psychotherapy, and in coordination with Dr. Mantell, he organized the first ever conference focusing on the contribution of non-dual spiritual experience to psychotherapy. We focus on Peter's concepts tonight and with his work, The Radiant Mind. You can learn more about his work at www.radiantmind.net. That is at the bottom of our show description. And let me go ahead and get Peter's mic opened up here. Hi, Peter. Welcome to Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour.
Hi, Jessie. Thank you very much for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you here. Go ahead.
No, please. I was just seeing what our connection was like, because, as you know, I'm on the other side of the Pacific.
That's right. And for people who don't know, Peter is calling in. Is it from Australia?
Yeah, from Australia.
Okay, perfect. And Peter and I spoke a few months back, and I was just so impressed with the work he was doing. I was so happy to hear everything that he was involved in and bringing to the world. I said, how would you like to come on and be a guest? Please.
A great pleasure.
And Peter, I would love to start by having you share some of your background and journey with us that led you into doing the work that you're doing today.
I think it begins at the place that it begins for most people, if not everyone, but with our own personal suffering and looking for a path, a way to work with, to deal with our suffering so that we have a more fulfilling life. That's certainly how it began for me when in my late teens and early 20s, life became very confused with a lot of pain and suffering, and what really began to open things up for me was meditation, and then discovering through meditation just the very notion of working with our own mind in order to achieve happiness and fulfillment. So rather than looking outside as much as we usually do for changing what's happening in the sense world or changing the structure of our relationships, what we're doing, things on the outside, realizing that through meditation we have direct access to really accessing other states of consciousness through simple meditation and accessing levels of consciousness within which we suffer less, and ultimately within which suffering can't happen at all. So it's really the discovery of that through meditation, and then looking for ways to share my discoveries, because my initial discoveries were very, let's say, integrated, involved with traditional Tibetan Buddhist practices, so looking for how to take things out of that cultural mold and offer it to Westerners.
And I think that that's an interesting thing to take that and bring that in, because I've seen a lot of shifts and changes, and I feel like the Westerners are more receptive to Eastern philosophies than perhaps I've ever seen in the past. Because I kind of remember, say, back in the 70s and the 80s, and it was one of those things like, oh, those health food store people, oh, those people that are off chanting somewhere, and it was a very small group of people, so to say. So I think it's absolutely just wonderful that you're now bringing this over to the West, and have been. Actually, you've been established here in the West for a while.
Well, I think, yes, certainly a tradition like Buddhism has been well established in the West, in the U.S. and Canada and Europe and Australia and so on for well over 40 years. So that's a long time for a lot of people to be involved and engaged. And really, in the West, you see some very innovative developments. I hope that what I'm doing makes the timeless wisdom of these traditions more available, but there are many, many people doing very exciting work. Particularly now, I mean, in a way, the new direction is making this wisdom of liberation, this liberating wisdom, accessible to the younger generation, 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds. So that's something that I look at and really admire, the most recent developments.
I think that that's a very interesting group to be accessing. I'm thinking of this, and I'm thinking, in that age range, in that generation, on one hand, they're very, very spiritual. We talk about the indigos being in that generation, and yet on the other hand, they just really need this because so many of them are really feeling the pressures come down more so than before. You know, they're looking at culture and society today, and they're saying, well, gee, you know, I look at my grandparents and they had this and they were able to do that, and now I don't even know how to begin to get there. And the stress and the pressure
all right, exactly.
seem much higher for them than what I've seen perhaps in previous generations. So I think it's really wonderful that you're putting a focus on that generation now.
That's why I think it's really important. Well, it becomes more and more important in a way as we struggle with life at the conditioned level. It becomes more and more important that we do have access to states of well-being that aren't dependent on what's happening outside, that aren't dependent on, you know, the particular career that we have, the work that we have, even, you know, the relationships that we have. So it's really important that we are able to discover within ourselves a level, a state of consciousness, a state of being aware within which the changes that are happening inside and outside our body aren't as significant to us. They don't throw us around, that we're able to connect with an awareness that is ultimately imperturbable, an awareness that doesn't change in the midst of all of the changes that can happen to us on a day-by-day basis, month by month, year by year, all those huge and massive changes that we journey from birth through to death, that we can feel a connection, actually not just feel a connection, but really rest in, suffuse our being with awareness itself, which is different from all of the sensations that come and go. And certainly for younger people to have access to just resting in awareness, but really for all of us, it's for what is often in Buddhism called the ultimate medicine, the ultimate medicine. Because when we're here, when we're resting in the state that I'm talking about, we're beyond the possibility of suffering. Suffering can't happen no matter what condition we find ourselves in.
This is a really wonderful aspect to delve into, and I think something that maybe several people out there haven't thought about, this resting in awareness, being beyond the suffering. Because I think at times the human mind has a hard time grasping some of that concept. I can certainly see that in doing this process that it seems like the outer world would also settle down, because if we're not being swayed and tossed around and we're able to rest in this more consistent awareness and not experience the suffering outside, and everything is also going to settle down. And that kind of was alluded to actually in the passage I read from Yehuda Berg, that we're creating that.
Certainly, because the state that we're talking about is awareness, and when awareness allows everything to happen as it does, so that we're not fighting against reality, we're not fighting against ourselves. So sometimes it's spoken about as a state of total, pure receptivity, and I think we can feel that now. I mean, the wonderful thing is that all of the things that we're talking about right now, Jesse, that we can open our hearts to embrace them. We're not talking about concepts. The words are pointing to opportunities that we and all of our listeners can open into right now, just as we're listening to these words, as they're joining our conversation.
Yes. Yes. It's kind
that
of like
to me is the beauty of words. Yeah, that there's, in a way, there are two ways of listening to words. One way is that we can listen to a word like openness or receptivity as a theoretical idea, as a good suggestion, or we can take those really wholesome words, simple words like receptivity or God or Buddha mind. We can take those very simple words and just open into what they're pointing to, presence them in this moment. And for me, that's the creative power of language, not language as a tool for understanding, but language, words, as in their creative power, their power to reveal, to bring forth what they're pointing to.
So it's kind of like getting an experience off of those words as opposed to just using the words to communicate. It's about hearing those words come in and go, oh, there's an experience I want to have. I'm going to stop and let that experience happen.
Exactly. So we can say, okay, openness, and then we just feel that happening, that there's no boundary here. So if we look for a boundary right now, something that closes things down, it's not here. So it's just we go for a ride as it is with the word. Or just space. Space is such a beautiful word and used so frequently in the Eastern traditions as a way of bringing in more spaciousness. I mean, the phrase, bring in more spaciousness works for most of us, but we don't think to use sentences. We don't think to use words like that. In the Eastern traditions, you even have forms of meditation called sky gazing, in which you just take in the vastness of the sky, and then there are no obstacles, and you feel that expansion happening. So it's beautiful for me to be able to use words in that more revealing and poetic sense, not seeking understanding, because the particular concepts that we're talking about here, like Buddha mind or spaciousness, unconditioned awareness, radiant mind, God, they're beyond understanding. They really are. They are experiential states.
Very much so, and it's so interesting that you brought those pieces out, because I recently had two shows that were based around the use of words and how words impact us. And this is bringing in a whole different dimension and aspect to that. So those people who have been listening to the shows over the last month in particular are probably starting to pull some of these pieces together going, oh, yes, this is great. This is bringing in more. And the stargazing is wonderful. I love to do that. Matter of fact, I spent a lot of time in summer doing that, going out late at night when I would close my day down and just do the stargazing, because it was such a perfect way to close down the day and let go of everything that had happened, just let it all free. So for those people who are able to do that this time of year, or like where you are, where it's warmer now, because now there's snow out there, so it's not as comfortable to go out and stargaze. I have to bundle up a bit more to do that. But yeah, really love that.
Yeah, what I often point out to people is that nothing more needs to happen in the moment in order for us to be complete, because the habit that we have, it's like a bad habit, a habit that doesn't serve us, is to habitually think that in order for me to be really content, I can't do it right now. It can't happen in this moment because, And then we've got this big, huge list, nearly unending list of things to draw from, because of my health, because of my finances, because I don't know enough, because I don't meditate, because I don't have a community to support me, whatever it is we have, because I'm too busy. Of course, that's the really constant one. So we always think there's something that has to happen before we can just let go and just let things be as they are in this moment. And we can do that right now. That's what I feel. I feel that once we're in the situation that we're in right now, that in a way, listening to this program in particular, for me it demonstrates that that the conditions are already suitable for us to enter the state of Buddha mind, to be here in a way that we're not preoccupied with ourselves. And so your theme, so that we're really open to the energy coming in and through us and sharing it with all other beings. And that if nothing more needs to happen for that flow to be happening.
Exactly. And I think that sometimes people, they start to feel that energy and maybe something feels a little bit good or something, or they try to hold on to that energy, and we need to just let it flow through. Expansiveness comes from the flowing through and the sharing, because when it flows through, then it can share into others.
Right.
As well. And this is such a key, I think, when you're in this space, and it's just like, as you say, I think so many people, they get into these limited spaces with day in and day out life, like my finances or relationship or this, and they place themselves in those confines of worrying about all of this instead of just stopping and expanding. And we can certainly understand it. You've been through it. I've been through it. It's very overwhelming at times, life, when we are in life. But if we shift and go into expansiveness, then it seems like life kind of just, when we share that expansiveness with life, life takes care of itself.
Right. Beautiful wording. That's how it comes to me as well, that life takes care of itself, that this moment, each moment, takes care of itself. And yes, in the midst of life, we can acknowledge that we have preferences. We like some things, we don't like other things. So when things are not how we'd like them to be, that's how suffering happens. And I think very few of us are free of that, so that complications and difficulties and challenges will happen in the future, most likely. It's not that we condemn ourselves to that, but there's a certain realism in acknowledging that. But that doesn't have to diminish this moment, doesn't have to diminish the quality of what's possible in this moment, of taking advantage of it, and being unburdened. Like we can, whatever the burden is, the burden doesn't need to be. The burden isn't a weight on us, on our shoulders at the moment. And we just can do that by thinking, wow, I don't need to be burdened in this moment. I really don't. We can be free.
And I think that's an interesting thing, is that we too often just allow ourselves to continue to carry those burdens, and instead of making that shift to I don't have to carry this, I don't have to feel this right now. I can instead choose to experience the moment, and at some point people are going to say, Yeah, but Peter, I've got to face the fact that that the bills have to be paid, right? They're going to, and I'm sure you've heard this. It's like, but that's great. If I take this moment and I let myself go in this moment, and but how does that get my bills paid? How does that make that shift to take care of things? And I think that's the piece that sometimes people are not grasping. Like how that works.
Right. Well, I think part of what's happening there is I feel that we deprive ourselves of the opportunities that do arise in all of our lives for resting in, for experiencing ourselves as the field of awareness. As I said, within which our life is unfolding, within which our life travels. And we don't give ourselves those opportunities. We give ourselves the time to have a good meal, to have a conversation, chat on the phone with a friend, to have a drink, whatever. We give ourselves those times, have a nice cup of coffee or tea or go out to a cafe. But we don't so much give ourselves the time to do nothing, to just be, no one going nowhere, to not have an agenda. So yes, those things are happening. And when we look at it, those things get done, more or less, often less for sure, to the standard we would like, but those things get done, the bills getting paid and so on. And we've done things certainly in an okay way up till now, because our life has brought us to this point. So in some sense we can appreciate that. We can really appreciate that our life, no matter how it's happened, it's brought us to this point, in this moment, when we can be complete, yes, knowing that we're not sure, how some of the bills will get paid, but trusting in life. Bringing, in fact, really no more than the trust we've brought to our life up to this point. We've trusted being alive, we're still here as a living being. We've trusted life, trusted this embodiment, and it's brought us to this moment in our life from which we can go forward and live our life fully and completely, including opening to these periodic opportunities in which we give ourselves this gift of the ultimate medicine, give ourselves the gift of saying, oh, wow, yeah, wow, okay, so I can rest. But this is more than just physical resting. It's more than just rest and relaxation. It's really resting in a state where, in this moment, that suffering just can't happen to the body-mind that we are.
And I think that was just beautifully put. And as I was listening, I was thinking to myself, and isn't it so freeing to be no one going nowhere? We're so busy in this, carrying the burdens of being a certain person, carrying these responsibilities, having to be somewhere, having to go somewhere. And I think this is part of why there may have, in some ways, the stresses are always there. They're different stresses for different generations. But in some ways, my parents, grandparents didn't experience some of the things that, say, my niece is experiencing now or the younger generation is experiencing now, because they took time to do nothing. And that is such a big difference, because the suffering can't happen in the present moment, from my understanding. It can only happen if we're living in the future. And if we shift from, oh my God, how are the bills going to get paid, to, wow, isn't it curious that I'm sitting in this moment?
Yeah, great inquiry.
And it's to me that to stop and go, isn't it curious that this is happening? Isn't it interesting that I'm sitting in this position? And as you say, raising that awareness, and then being able to stop, and it's amazing how 5 minutes or 15 minutes of doing nothing can feel like 3 hours of busyness. The break
absolutely. Yeah.
It's so amazing.
Right. Yeah.
You feel like you've gained tons of time.
Right. And it's often, it's so easy to not let that 5 minutes happen of being no one. And it's really profound, that notion of being no one. It's not just a throwaway idea, because when we look for who we are, in fact, how we open into awareness is by looking for who we are as the experiencer of our life, looking for who we are not as the object of what's experienced, but who am I as the being that's aware of all of the things that I'm aware of now. And the wonderful thing is that we look and we can't find ourselves, because immediately whatever we would find is no longer who we are. It's something we're experiencing. And so that's the way that the expansion and opening can happen, by looking for, where am I? Not the thought, not the idea I, but who experiences that thought? Where's the thinker? Not the thoughts. Where's the experiencer? And this is the way to open into consciousness, open into awareness. And then see that we can't even find a boundary between inside and outside when we reside, rest in awareness itself. It's a real feeling of openness, and of course the connection with compassion is that then we don't relate to compassion as me helping others, but it is more of what you're saying, that channeling process of being in the flow, and the people that come into our life, the people that we're aware of, in a way become us. It's not us and them over there. And then what we bring to people can be the joy of this moment. What we bring is not perhaps helping in the way that we often relate to it, which is great, but we bring to them through a sense of resonance and vibration. We just open up that possibility of being here too, just as I'm sure that our listeners, that some change is happening in these last few minutes, just through joining us, Jessie, on this call together.
I very much agree, and I had somebody type in the chat area, now that is interesting. So yes, you are opening people to awareness in these very moments. And as I was listening to you, this concept of who am I as awareness, and as you say, it's compassion, not always in the sense of having to help somebody else, but that sharing, that realizing that, I might be looking at you in front of me and seeing you something outside of myself, but what I'm really seeing is neither me or neither you, which is an interesting thing, because we talk about, well, there's the mirror, and when we look at things outside of ourselves, that's a mirror to us. But instead of seeing that, even kind of creates a separation to a certain extent. Instead of just saying this is all one thing, I'm experiencing observer and receiver, or I'm experiencing it on the multiple levels through myself,
exactly.
there's no longer a separation there.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
This is an interesting thing because I think this opens some doors, and I'm kind of, and I love doing this, kind of straying from my format every now and then, which is perfect because I'm not having per se questions so much tonight because it's all flowing in. Everything we're talking about is what the radiant mind is about, and delving into this. And as we start to realize that it's not about you and me in this thought system that you're bringing up or this experience you're providing, and that it is all one, that's part of how we can come to start to understand that there isn't an absence or a deficiency out there. That's how we start to tap into true abundance, I would say, because if we're all carrying all these different pieces, then we have everything.
Right.
If we're all pieces of the whole, just separated where we can see the other pieces besides ourselves, then we have everything because the separation doesn't really exist.
Right, but I think that part of what we're exploring here, that it's quite easy for us to appreciate and understand, is that we're exploring going beyond needs. We're exploring not needing anything, and how, in this moment, we don't need anything more than we have. That's how and why we're fulfilled in this moment. That when we have needs, unfulfilled needs, that's when there's a sense of lack and deficiency and individuation, fragmentation, sense of being breaking away from the whole. What's happening now is that we are discovering that in this moment we don't need anything more than we have right now. Nothing more is needed. We can't, in fact, if we had more, we wouldn't be able to do anything with it. It doesn't make sense. We don't have more than we need. We don't have less than we need. So in this moment, we don't need anything. We can just be here together as we are, listening as we are, appreciating, understanding or not understanding. Doesn't make any difference. We're exploring, for example, not being limited by not understanding. So it's possible, particularly given that we're talking about things that, as I said earlier, in a way go beyond the mind. Certainly things like radiant mind and Buddha mind, Buddha nature. And we can be content and satisfied, deeply, deeply nourished and content and satisfied with things being exactly as they are. And that's the ultimate achievement. Being able to be content with things no matter how they are. So if we're in good health, that's great. And we can be here and be content with things as they are. And if we're not in good health, it's okay. Those things happen. We're living inside a biological frame. It's inevitable that sometimes it won't work, that we experience ill health. And even when that's happening, it's possible to be content in the moment. Just to be not struggling for things to be different, which they can never be in the moment.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that we don't take care of things. We take care of things in order to be able to return to resting in awareness, doing what we're doing now together.
Definitely. And you know, when we do think about that, and this, it's funny, I posted something earlier this week that actually related to all of this. This very topic of not needing to be anywhere else. You know, if we really do just look at this moment, we're okay. We're okay in this. It's a great concept that you have. That unfulfilled need breaks us away from the whole. That's a really interesting thing, and in some of your work, you talk about it being important to experience ourselves as a unique individual. So, how does those two different things kind of tie together?
It's in a mysterious way that's inexplicable to me. But the mystery is the mystery of being a unique organism, which we are, and not denying that we are certainly individuated by our body and thinking mind. So I have responsibility for, for Peter Fenner, and also, and my experience changes moment by moment in a very unique and precise way, as does your experience, as does everyone's experience, unfold in a unique way. We all have a different life. That's all that's saying. Yet, at the level of awareness, there's no difference, because awareness is like space. It can't be cut up. You can't make divisions within awareness. Recognizing that awareness is that which is aware of whatever's arising. So our feelings aren't awareness. Feelings are things that we feel. Our emotions that come and go, fear, anxiety, joy, they're not awareness. They're the things that are happening within awareness. And so when we recognize awareness, we see, as you were saying before, precisely that we can't say where you and I stop, where you start and where I begin, and so on. So how does that work? It's a mystery. It's the finite and the infinite coming together and working the mystery that it does through our human life. And how does it work? In one way, I could think, wow, that should be impossible for it to be like that. But here it is, the mystery is happening.
Definitely. And yeah, and that is a really, I find, an interesting thing to ponder, that in being in this awareness that you can look at things and see that I'm unique, you're unique, and yet there's no difference at the same time. And it's a little bit profound, I think, but at the same time, it makes perfect sense. I mean, there's, you take the symbol of infinity, for example, and you have two different ends, but they're absolutely connected. There's no separation. They're one thing, even though they have two unique sides or spots or places. And I think as we look at this concept that each one of us is a unique piece of the whole, but we're still all part of the whole. We're still one.
Well, right, and we are the whole.
And
in
we
a way,
are the whole.
we are, each one of us, each one of us is the universe, because there's nothing more happening than what we are aware of. And we can't be aware of something that we're not aware of. So again, that's the way that this brings in the idea that you mentioned earlier of effortlessness. There's nothing more to do, nothing more to know in this moment. And that really is my invitation for our listeners, just to move into, as it were, the groove of what it feels like when the work has been done, when all the work is over, because that's what we're all looking for. We're all looking for that state, that point where the work is finished. And we look for that just when we have small projects or big projects. In a way, we're always looking for the end so we can stop and breathe and just do nothing for a while. And then with our life, we're looking for that in a similar way, but in a more significant way, getting all the work finished, the work of being free of suffering and being content. We can, I feel, do, in a way, more of that than we do, of being content, by saying, okay, we can do that right now, but nothing is being demanded of us. That's the beautiful thing to appreciate, that oftentimes it seems that the world, life, other people are demanding something from us, but maybe not in these seconds, in these minutes. But nothing's being demanded of you. Just these words are going in, free-flowing, easy conversation. As much of it is making sense as does. You're going where you go with it, enjoying it however you do, and there's no pressure whatsoever. No pressure from our side, no pressure from my side, no pressure from your side. It's a beautiful gift to give ourselves. No pressure.
Exactly, and I think we place so much pressure on ourselves because we put these deadlines and these restrictions on it. It's like, oh, this has got to get done. But does it actually have to get done in this moment? And it doesn't, because if it absolutely had to be done in this moment, we would be doing it and we wouldn't be thinking about it's got to be done in this moment.
Right.
We would be doing it and we would be released that way. And taking that time to stop and breathe, when you were talking about that really triggered something for me, in the sense that you mentioned that we live for those moments where we stop and we breathe and it represents a completion or an ending. And I think that this could be a very key thing in this very rushed society that a lot of people live in. We're not taking the time to stop and breathe. Therefore, many times we're not allowing ourselves to get a sense of things ending or completing or finished. I know that when I studied with some of my teachers along the way many years ago, they taught me a process of reverie, of going back and reviewing the day and clearing it and releasing it and stopping and breathing through things. And it was such an incredible, wonderful tool to do. And every day it gave me a sense that my day was completed. This whole set of events that happened today was done. It was over with. Have a new day for tomorrow. And now I can rest my body and not have to worry about any of this. And I wonder if simply by taking these moments to stop and breathe and just give ourselves that peacefulness, even those few seconds, that it could trigger that ending mentally, emotionally, and allow us to say, we're done with this.
Yes, that is great to be doing that. And I think as we do that, we also learn to live life with more skill, more grace, more finesse, let's say, so that we create fewer incompletions. So just moment by moment, we discover how to live life so that we're not picking up new baggage. We're not creating more of a load as we move along. We're learning how to be free in the moment and how to end each day so that at the end of each day we're feeling, oh, wow, it's complete. I feel complete. I do right. That's great. I feel gifted. I feel blessed because there weren't things that I did that I now wish I hadn't done and have to think about how I fix them up. And I didn't do things that I regret not doing and that I now have to work out how to do them. So we're complete. And I think that skill comes through. It's given to us through this more reflective, gently reflective, contemplative way of being in which we do things like just sit quietly a little bit each day and recognize, as I said right at the beginning, we recognize the capacity we have to nourish ourselves, to bring nourishment and fulfillment and, I mean, just really wonderful states of joy and happiness and bliss to ourselves, just because these are possible. These are the potential that we have as conscious beings.
And again, I think you're touching on some really, really huge things here. This aspect of allowing ourselves to feel complete, and that these endings allow us to release our baggage. It's so key, and I noticed when I was doing this, taking the time to stop and breathe and do the stargazing and things during the summer here, that what started out as just being like, oh, I could immerse in hours and hours of this, to going to where 20 minutes felt like hours, because it had shifted that much of I was so ready to be complete. It brought that. And I think this is a huge aspect to shifting, again, our experience here. I'll say it as our experience as opposed to shifting per se ourselves or the whole universe or the state of affairs, so to say, but shifting our experience here. I think a lot of people don't get that sense of completeness in their life, feeling complete, as we touched on, a sense of missing something, needing something, and that's where we create that separation from everything that we are, the whole, right? In that aspect.
What many of the people who've been with me, who've participated in Radiant Mind and other programs do is that they come together with some regularity by phone often in a teleconference and just be with each other, maybe with a little bit of talking along the lines that I've said, just appreciating the power of words to invoke and reveal different states of awareness, and then they just be with each other, and it's very powerful when people come together in that way, even just with a telephone connection. In fact, with just the phone connection, in some ways makes it easier for people just to turn off from whatever the daily activities are, and very, very quickly, it's like being in an elevator, very, very quickly, they find that, someone like presses the button and they're just going out from the basement and up to getting more oxygen, there's more elevation, and then just feeling the freedom of not being burdened by difficult thoughts and feelings, and that this moment is sufficient in and of itself, and that it's really giving ourselves everything, giving our nervous system what we need, and our breathing supports, the actions of our nervous system, and We just feel delighted to have these opportunities. I'm delighted right now, that we have this opportunity to be doing exactly what we're doing. What are the options? I mean, for me, if I wasn't doing this right now, what could I be doing? Maybe I'd be looking at a book, or I'd be doing some emails or something. That would be like a bit of a chore. I mean, the reading would be of questionable value to me relative to what we're doing now. Relative to what we're doing now, in contrast to doing what we're doing now, there's nothing better that we could be doing. This is it. There's nothing better to do, ever.
That's an intriguing concept. Because I could hear other people going, well, I could be, rappelling down a canyon instead of working a job, or or things. But absolutely,
yeah. But the now is right now. The now is this now, right? The moment, this moment.
Well, and I think that's a big concept, is you're recognizing the value of this moment. When we sit there and think, well, I'd rather be doing this, or I could be doing that, we're, in a way, at least for me, maybe devaluing the moment.
Right, precisely. For me, that undermines the opportunity of this moment, because we create a contrast and think that whether it could be, it would be, or wouldn't be, we think maybe it could be better. Maybe it would be better if. So it is. We create a lack, like a potential lack, by thinking about a hypothetical thing in the future that might be better, could be better, without us having any knowledge or guarantee of that. Or we might relate to the past that we can't reactivate anyway, because here we are now. So this is how do we create the optimum opportunity of this moment, of each and every moment. Yeah.
Absolutely, that value.
And exactly, when you've got the contrast that what we could be doing is, I could be thinking, well, it would be better if, you can feel the quality of that. It doesn't have the quality of just sort of saying yes, not even needing to say yes to this moment, because it's just saying yes to us, and we're just breathing it in, and we are fulfilled in this state of no pressure and no demands and nothing that we're setting up in contrast to this to get our mind caught up in. It's beautiful. It's delightful. For me, it's precious. It's precious.
And realizing that preciousness, being aware of that preciousness, not having to analyze it, just seeing that preciousness, just experiencing it, is so key in things.
Yeah, it is key.
Yeah. And this seems like it starts, what we're discussing about here really, really delves into your concept, I would think, of restructuring our thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I find that it happens. We don't have to go about it like systematically or programmatically thinking, I need to restructure my thoughts. What happens is we begin to taste this possibility, the possibility that we're opening up here. We begin to taste it, and we say, there's something really nice and sweet and delicious about this. I like this. It's like a food that we've never tasted before. And we say, what's here? Yes, that's very nice. I think tomorrow I'll try that again. And so we just become more familiar, month by month, year by year, not looking for any massive breakthrough that some people can do. They think, look, I just want this massive breakthrough, so I'll never suffer again in my life. So I think that's very unlikely. That's an unrealistic way of thinking. What's possible is that we taste this and then we grow it. We nurture it. We nurture it in our life. We nurture it through sitting and just taking that pressure off and realizing for 5 minutes, 10 minutes each day, some time that, there's nothing I need to do right now. I've got nothing to prove to anyone. I can just breathe in and experience the richness and fullness of my existence in this pressureless way. And then, so that's how the retraining happens, not through work, but it's then we come to value this, what we're doing now, we come to value this. And we say, this is something that is just as important as my material well-being, just as important as my emotional well-being, just as important as my relationship, is this possibility to periodically just rest in these very delightful, open, expansive states of being that are really at the core of our existence. I mean, they're the one thing in our life that doesn't change. When you said, Jesse, I think it was the continuous awareness or something like that. It was a different word that you used. I thought, yes, this is what awareness is. It's that which is the same all the way through our life. So the rewiring, if you want to say, is something that happens automatically. It's not something that we have to work at.
And that right there, when we think about that concept, it's like, oh, well, that relieves a lot of pressure off of me. I don't have to stop and think about all of this restructuring. I can just let it happen. And you touched into an area as you went into this of going into this energy being so consistent and constantly there for us. As we were talking about this continuous flow that's there. And that's where we find our so-called stability, I would think. That's where we find security, is even though everything's shifting and changing, there is this consistent magnificence that's always there.
Yeah.
Constant.
Yeah, exactly.
Every moment.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't go away. It never does. Which is how I would think we would. It's how I would think we would know that divine presence or the whole is always there for us.
Right, yes, because this isn't the type of thing that can go away. There's nothing here. It's so all-embracing and so saturating, let's say, that we can't push it away. The idea of even not being here is strange. It's just an idea. And for me, the beauty and wonder of this is that it is mysterious. It's all-fulfilling. It fulfills everything we could conceivably want and need. And at some point it becomes inescapable. It's not to say we can, at times we think I'm not here, but right now when we look at this is inescapable. We can't not be here. And the paradox of this is that we don't know where here is. And we don't need to. And this is the real, for me, the pinnacle of what's possible in terms of our human evolution. We can ask the question, how far can we evolve as a human species? Well, I'm sure we can do all sorts of incredible things at the material level, and we will. But in terms of how far we can evolve as a being that's handled the fundamental question of our existence, which is how to work with and how to overcome our suffering, I feel that it's possible for us now, each and every one of us, to achieve the same state that the saints in all of the traditions achieved when they accomplished and achieved the discovery of a state of awareness, a state of being within which suffering doesn't happen. So I think that is available to us. And going back, Jesse, on what you were saying a little earlier, I think it's becoming more and more accessible. So there's big changes have happened in the last 40 years. And what we're talking about, the conversation that we're in right now, is not like excessively unusual conversation. There are a lot of places where people are discovering how to abide in awareness, how to rest in the ground of being.
Yes, and to me it's very exciting to see that we have access to so many more opportunities, that the information, the insights, the experiences are so much more out in the open than they've ever been before. And you were talking about how delicious this moment feels. How yummy is this? And it immediately triggered some memories of some points in my life that I thought, yes, I've experienced it, because in that moment, all I thought about was how delicious that moment was. And when we stop and we think about that, and we sit there, and too many times I think we get wrapped up in our day, and it's like, there's this issue, there's this problem, there's this whatever going on in our life. And we don't stop sometimes, as you say, take that breath and go, wow, the fact that I am standing on this earth in a three-dimensional, having whatever conversation or having no conversation, having a moment, is everything that it took to give me that moment to exist on the face of this earth is incredible.
Yes. Yes, it is.
And I don't think we give enough time to that. And that, I think, is the difference to what you refer to in your work as being in this radiant mind, which is truly valuing and appreciating the moment. Just like many of us tend not to value and appreciate the life that we have at any given time, and we sit there and go, well, man, if I was a celebrity, or man, if I, had the money that guy had, what a great life that would be, without realizing, you know what, I probably really don't want that life. I probably really don't want to have an entourage around me 24/7 and never have any privacy.
That's a great reflection, to appreciate what we do have, because I don't feel that I fully appreciate what's behind my existence. It's so easy to take things for granted. And the reason I say that is because, when I see people doing what they're doing and so on, I often think, wow, people are just moving about in life and, in a way, just taking our human life for granted, not really, haven't been deeply engaged with the question of, what's possible, what are we here for? That the conversation that we're having now, for example, about universal compassion and wisdom and awareness and consciousness and so on, it's a conversation that not everyone participates in. So it's as you said, these are deep questions to consider and reflect on. And it's great that we are doing it, that our listeners are doing it. And the reason that I say that I'm not sure that I fully appreciate what's behind my existence, exactly as you said, standing on this planet, where we are, with the body that we have, using the resources that we have. How come? What gives me this chance, this opportunity? You know, why is it being gifted to me? I don't know. It's something that I would like to appreciate in more depth. And yes, in Radiant Mind, I talk about the depth of presencing unconditioned awareness. So Radiant Mind is the sense that unconditioned awareness, which is like space, contentless, which just is awareness itself, it can permeate through our existence, and it's as though it permeates even beyond our existence into the depths of our being that are beyond our comprehension. Because it's difficult for me to say that I am finite, or I'm not finite. I'm with that question, and I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
If we look at all of the causes and the conditions that allow us to be living the life that we are, we're much vaster than what we appear to be, than what we assume to be.
Most definitely, and I think that's a great thing for us to think about or reflect on, that we are so much more than this human body that we're walking around in on the face of the earth. And that is so much more expansive than just, again, us, our piece of it, our aspect that we bring. And as you say, you know, we don't oftentimes take that time to appreciate the moment and where we're at, and especially when we're in those struggling points and those times that really feel like suffering, because no matter what we have or who we are or where we're at, there's somebody that actually is wishing they had what we had. And that people wish that they were the poorest person on the earth. I have seen it where there are people with a ton of money that says, man, I wish I was that person. I wish I was that bum in some way, because they don't have a worry, they don't have a concern, they don't have a pressure, they don't have any place to be, they don't have any demands, they don't have any of these obligations. So even those people that we look at and say, oh my gosh, that's a horrible existence, but that's kind of our judgment in a way. There's somebody out there.
Yeah.
I wish I had the simplicity of that guy out there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the habit that we have. The way that we create lack so easily.
Yeah. So being able to shift that, it seems like, to, I am so grateful for what I've been given. I've been given tools or gifts or whatever to work with. And instead of worrying about, why didn't I get the sports car versus the SUV to drive in this life, hey, I've got the SUV, and that sure as heck beats walking, or at least I've got this tool to do with it. Maybe I can appreciate it and find something amazing there. So incredible, and it makes me, as I'm sure many of our listeners, stop and go, yeah, I'm really sure I could find 5, 10, 15 minutes out of my day to be quiet for a while and do nothing. Myself that presence.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, I think for this. Go on.
No, go right ahead.
I was saying, the idea that we've, got to do more work. That I think there's a real trap in that, and that just realizing that in the moment we don't have to do anything more. That we're not going anywhere. That we've, it's not that we've arrived, but we're for me, we're allowing consciousness to move in a direction it would naturally move. It's like we're a balloon that's been submerged in water. And if we just let go of that, let go of the struggles, let go of the endeavors we just automatically rise to the top.
Yes, absolutely. And I think what a great analogy to bring in. It's when we struggle in the water that we exhaust ourselves, and eventually we will relax, exhaustion, if nothing else. But sitting there and thinking about, yes, it might be great to do all these things, but if this was it, if this was my last moment, does it really make any difference whether I make this next appointment or? I mean, we would all love to.
Great question.
Sit there and go, oh yeah, it's going to make a huge difference that I get out there and tour and do this and do that, and certainly there will be ones that are impacted by that. However, does it really, whether I do that or not? Not really. And maybe, especially not if it's the present moment. Or appreciating the value of being able to do that. I think so many thoughts here for us.
Yes.
And I would love for you to take some time here, Peter, and share with our listeners what you have that they can partake in. You've got the book, The Radiant Mind. You have the courses. You also do another aspect, which is natural awakening training, which is a little bit different than your Radiant Mind work. Share with our listeners what they can partake in that you offer, and
okay, thank you very
and things like that.
And thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much for the opportunity. I would say the most valuable thing I have to offer people is the community, like a small community of people who are involved and engaged in Radiant Mind work. So it's a sort of informal group of people across the country, or in fact across the world. I've just finished a Radiant Mind course a week ago in Australia. We had one running for 9 months, but there are normally Radiant Mind courses happening different places around the world. And so there is a community in which people come together by teleconferencing, just the way we are. And that, to me, is a very valuable component of Radiant Mind that I hadn't expected to happen when I began doing this 12 years ago. When I first ran the Radiant Mind course, I wasn't expecting a really lovely, sort of informal, very generous, warm-hearted community to evolve. So that's, in fact, something that is a real blessing in the work. And then I have the 9-month Radiant Mind course, which came about because many people who I've taught to were saying, yeah, that's great, Peter, coming and offering a workshop, weekend workshop, or a 5-day retreat, but is there a way of doing this over the long term so we can really embody it in our lives? So I created the 9-month Radiant Mind course, and many people have done it. Many people have done it many times. And I now have people in that program who are coaches in the program. The next one will be happening in Portland, beginning at the end of March, running out through to the end of the year. People have the website, radiantmind.net for that. And I have the book and the CDs, which are like a mini course. People can get into it and do get into it without using the support of a group of people. The good thing about the 9-month program is that people are deeply supported by coaches that I've trained, so they have regular contact with me, with coaches, with other participants, along with the workshops. And then you mentioned, yes, the Natural Awakening is an advanced course. It's more like a teacher training. Again, people approached me who'd done Radiant Mind 3 or 4 times and said, Peter, can you really show us what you do? Teach us to do what you do. We may not want to do exactly what you want to do ultimately, but we'd like to know what you do, and so then we can integrate that into our own sharing, our own teaching, our own sharing. And so, yes, I developed a 10-month program for the Natural Awakening, and that's a course that's been run in America several times and in Europe a few times too. They're the main things, and also I do individual work with people, so people are welcome to contact me. I have some people who I just work with one-on-one, which is delightful, and we have I'm now exploring new possibilities, video conferencing. We'll have an event happening out of Portland in January, which I look forward to. So that on the websites will give information also about dates and everything you would like to know. And if people have any questions, they're, as I say, most welcome to contact me, and I will get back to you with information.
And that's absolutely perfect, because I remember when I was talking with you before, you were opening up to some of the video conferencing aspects of things.
We're doing that, and it's going well. Yeah.
That's fantastic. And it's just great. I feel like I'm in deep appreciation of having this time and this moment with you here. I feel like, it's been such a gift to bring this show to our listeners, to expand them to this awakening, to these concepts and these aspects. And I can feel that in this show tonight, there's been a lot of ease and peace that has been brought into this space, and it genuinely has been a humongous gift, and I thank you very, very much for that.
Jessie, I thank you too, equally very much, for creating this space, for allowing us to both do this together, be where we've gone together, and to continue to enjoy this into the future. I thank you very, very much for that. And I thank all our listeners for their participation and for their listening and the journeys that they've made this evening.
Most definitely. And wow, I don't even need to say words. I think at this point, because it's been such a gift and certainly expanded my mind in different directions again, and I think these are exactly the things that we need, is to, in one sense, it's expanded in multiple directions and yet brought focus, and just such a huge gift here. Anything that you would like to close out with, like a closing thought or anything like that for our listeners? I know we mentioned your website, radiantmind.net, which is also at the bottom of the show description, for people to contact you, get hold of you. Check out Peter's work. I definitely encourage that. And I will let you give a closing concept before I have to do some of my other things to close the show out.
Sure, thank you. Well, I think it's just continuing the the theme that has come up of appreciation. And yes, I feel deep and profound appreciation on every front, as it were, that our time together has allowed me to appreciate, Jesse, the space that you have opened up tonight and the space that you're opening up continually with your life and the sharing that you're doing, that this has allowed, again, like the appreciation of my existence and the unknowability of the depth, and also the sense that with everything that's happened in my life has brought me to this point, which is really exquisite, and I invite listeners to view their lives in that way. So instead of focusing on what didn't happen, on what could have happened, we say, wow, if anything had been even slightly different, I may not be here in this moment. And it's exquisite just to be here, alive, and to reach this point of tasting the ultimate medicine and maybe discovering it more and more in my life. So that deep appreciation of the totality of our existence in this moment and into the past, and also my appreciation of you, listeners. I love talking to unknown people, knowing that they're hearing my word, and love the mystery of your existence, of not knowing who you are or where you are. And I invite you to, if you would like, to reveal some of that mystery. So feel free to contact me. Thank you.
Wonderful. And thank you so much, Peter. It's been a true honor
great
and a
pleasure.
And
okay. Thank you.
I would like to just move forward here that next week we will have Michael Williams on the show, and he will be talking about the soul's existence between incarnations. So this is going to be another very interesting thing to delve into. If you've ever, wanted some more information about what happens when we're not in this body, that's going to be a great area for us to delve into next week, and he's going to be sharing that with us. And my books on relationships, again, have been released. You can find the links to check those out and purchase them at JesseAnnNicholsGeorge1.com. They're designed to help you activate the perfect relationship for you, and you will learn how to find, develop, and maintain your perfect relationship. You'll learn how to understand what your partner is thinking, feeling, needing, and how to communicate in ways to strengthen your relationship and avoid the drama. Now, from this point all the way through the end of December 31st, I am donating a portion of the proceeds from those books, You, Me, Life Dreams, and also the corresponding workbook to that, to Live and Let Live Farm Rescue. And you can get the details on that on my website, I'm donating $2 to $5 per book that is sold, whether it's ebook or paperback, doesn't make any difference. There will be anywhere from $2 to $5 being donated to Live and Let Live for all purchases made through the end of December. And I am working on putting together more events for 2014, and you can stay on top of those at jessieannicholsgeorge.eventbrite.com. And if you'd like to find out more about the work I'm doing, you can check out my blog. I've got videos with all kinds of different tips and pointers on it, the products that I have, the services that I have, find ways to connect with me, listen to the archive shows or see upcoming shows. You can do all of that through my website at jessieannicholsgeorge1.com. There's also a section on there for Main Street Universe where you can follow all of our key hosts here, catch their upcoming shows and archive shows as well, learn a little bit about the people that are involved here at Main Street Universe. And that's all at the bottom of the show description today. My books are available on Amazon, BarnesandNoble.com, for paperback, Smashwords as an ebook form, and that includes Kindle and PDF versions and all kinds of things. So, again, you can check those out on my homepage. My December special is the Activating Compassion books. Both the Activating Compassion and Activating Compassion, the workbook, are available right now for purchase at $4.99 each in the paperback and $1.99 each in the ebook, which is a significant savings. And again, to find out about those, just go right onto my website, and that's got the links, everything right there that you can connect to it really easily. I've also got online courses going on. I have some things coming up with the full moon on the 17th. I have a course that will be going on for the winter solstice. In addition to that, I've got some full series of courses that have been going on. I've got an entire chakra series. I've got an entire series based around my Activating Compassion books, and also the You, Me, Life, Dreams books. There's an entire course around that as well. And you can take, one piece of that or all of it, whatever works for you. And even once the courses are passed, you can go back and check those out and still take them as a recording. So it's very convenient to do, as it works for you. And you can find out more about the courses that I've got available at www.learnitlive.com/invite/Jessie Ann Nichols George. So that's a great thing for you to take advantage of, and I want to remind you to don't forget that we've got several shows here on Main Street Universe throughout the week. Sunday nights we have Darren Bouquet, who's a reader at Madame Laveau in New Orleans. He does his show Spiritual Insights. Monday nights we have Kevin Baird walking on the sidewalk with his Horizon Oracles Journeys deck, a deck that he created. And you can find out more about that deck at templeofgaia.com. And we're also starting a show called Star Seeds, which is based around some of the concepts of being star seeds on the planet here. Tuesdays is Susan Weed, who shares her work in herbs and natural plants. Wednesday nights is the flagship show here, where we have Danielle, Janice, and Brett, and I should say Daniel as opposed to Danielle, Daniel. And they have all different things that they delve into. Sometimes it's topics, sometimes they're doing readings, sometimes they've got guests on the shows. And then about once a month we still have also Queen Mother Amaku, who takes a look at Egyptian culture, and that's on Thursdays. And then, of course, Friday nights right here we have Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. This is Jessie Ann Nichols George. I want to thank you so much for being here tonight. I look forward to seeing you back here next week as we delve more into Activating Compassion. Don't forget that if you've enjoyed the show this evening, share it with others. It's going to be available at the same link in our archives. And I'm going to leave you with the song Yearning For, also known as Over and Over, by Shemshai. Remember, you can check out their work at shemshai.com, SHIMSHAI.com. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you again next week right here on Activating Compassion in the Midnight Hour. May you enjoy the rest of your weekend and have an amazing week.
And if I could see what makes me blind, I would soar to the edge of my mind. and to touch what seems unreal, just to show you the way that I feel. And we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside. And we are in tune with the tune, caught in a balance of sun and moon. Oh, deep inside, the light within, shining to show you it's here to begin. When all I have is all I need, I will soar to the edge of eternity. And we see it eye to eye, one within love to be for the divine. And we're walking hand in hand, caught in the balance of God and man. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, but that you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart still yearning for. Yearning for. When all we have is all we need, all that we ask for shall be received. And we see in eye to eye, one within love to be for the divine. And we're walking hand in hand, caught in the balance of God and man. And we are in time with time, one with the season of change inside. And we are in tune with the tune of life in the circle and love in bloom. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets, but that you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart still yearning for. Over and over, life is your lover, learning to walk just a little bit slower, whispering secrets that you can't keep it. No turning back now, this time we reveal it. One to another, all will discover the essence within the most beautiful lover. Time is still turning, the love is still burning. Deep in your spirit, your heart still yearning for. Yearning for.